You ever feel like you're fighting back against life? Like it's punching you and you're punching back and you're not going to give up? Well, today's guest, Steve Lentini, is going to talk about how that approach may be the exact reason you feel stuck. Let me bring today Steve Lentini. All right, Steve, tell us a little bit about what it is that you do.
Well, for 26 years, I have one client that is now a CEO of a company. And when I met him, he was a project manager working for someone else. And when I asked him what his goal was for income, he couldn't write down $100,000 a year. He was embarrassed. In fact, we were at lunch at a restaurant and I had him write it on a cocktail napkin. And first he wrote 40,000. And then I said, nah, no. Actually, the words were a little stronger than that. And then he wrote down 60 and then 75 and finally 100. It was like pulling teeth. But because of his age, he was embarrassed. And then 3 years later, we're at a Starbucks and he's now paying for the coaching himself. And he came in a little late. I got up and said, you know what, Jeff, we're done. I'm not coaching with you unless you tell me what you're withholding. I had a sense he was holding something back. And so I got up to go. He said, sit down. I know what it is. I said, what's that? He said, I want to be a CEO of this company. Now, that was a challenge because that person, 26 years later, 23 years later, is still CEO of that company. So I said, Jeff, great. Now we can work on this or something better because you can never intend something in your mind that involves moving other people around. That's manipulation. And 3.5 years after that, he got a CEO job, or he got a promise he was going to be CEO. And twice he got that same promise and it fell through. Those people didn't keep their word. The next time he got interviewed, it was fascinating. As one of the owners said, you know what, we're going to hire you. What should we call you? And they thought there was silence for a minute. And the partner said, I know, CEO. And it just came serendipitously. And what the work was, working on his thinking and the way he spoke about himself, and then mentally preparing him to deserve more, to change his mind. And what was holding him back about the CEO, about telling me all those years earlier? He didn't have any college work. He had a high school diploma. And I can tell you, there are many people that didn't get their diplomas that started in their garage, like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. And there's many examples of it. And what the difference was is they were motivated by their passion for what they wanted to do. And as soon as Jeff got that feeling, as soon as my client got that feeling, it it appeared, it manifested. Now, he also did the work. He got jobs, he took jobs that were leadership levels. And in fact, as I mentioned, the partners had of those companies said, "Oh, we're going to make you CEO someday." And then that didn't happen when either family members rose up or other people, or some of those CEOs that promised them that are still CEOs of their companies. So it's mental work, it's mental framing, and coaching. What I do is listen, and it's called ontological coaching or ontological listening. His words were describing his mental state. And I don't accept anything less than what they really desire. I want to get to what lights their fire. It's like they have a pilot light and the gas hasn't yet been turned on. So the pilot light burns and it's kind of like, yeah, well, I guess in his head, I guess I want to be CEO, but I don't want to tell anybody that. And when he decided it was okay, it was like the gas lit up. And within a short time, he became a CEO, and he still is 14 years later, leading a company that's grown. In fact, he took on a challenge, a struggling company, and now it's doing over $8 million a year. Might even do $10 million this year.
Wow, that's an incredible story and an incredible way to actually get through what would be perceived as a block or would be perceived as almost a troubled associate or employee or team member, right? I mean, what's wrong with this guy? He's not quite with us, or he's off. There's just that alignment wasn't there. So the power of pulling that alignment out, whether you're doing it for yourself and a operator role, whether you're doing it even on a team role. That's a powerful skill. Where do you get put in most situations where you can apply that skill? Are you working with big companies? Are you working with small companies, individuals? What's kind of the match there?
So I work with leaders from large companies and individually owned companies that have their own team, 8, 10, 12, 15 people. I work with a company that has started out with 80 employees and now has over 500. I don't take any credit for that, but I can tell you that the work is no different. People define their blocks. It's just that they don't always hear it. Like I don't hear it for myself. I had a coach for 20 years who really helped me translate my life into coaching because of the way she also listened. And then when she passed away, I've had other coaches since then because we all need somebody that can listen to us and understand where we want to go and help build a bridge, right? We don't want to see a bay between what we desire in life and the other side, right? The goal. We want to build a bridge and understand gradually we'll get there because life is for us. Life is the teacher. That's where I bring them. Life is the teacher. So certain things that happen to many people, they become victims of it. They'll gladly tell you their tale over a glass of wine. You want to hear what happened to me this week? And then they tell the story, and people go, oh, yeah, you poor thing, it was a terrible week. And then someone ultimately chimes in and says, all right, you think that's bad. Wait till you hear what happened to me. I remove that victim story, and I have to remove it from myself because my brain, this acorn, I have let me show you that's my trademark, the acorn brain. And it's small minded thinking, it's our own brain limiting us. And here we live in something infinite we can't describe. And what I work with them is how I work with them is to listen. And then I expand their thinking when I catch it. Something limited, I'll say something like, what's another possibility? What else could happen there? What are some other things that you can see for yourself? And they answer the question. I don't. I once had a client said to me, hey, Steve is going to be a great coach for you. He was referring somebody, and the other person was on the phone, and he said, Steve's going to be a great coach for you. He will not tell you anything to do. And that's true because they have to come to it. They have to prove to themselves that they have the power to create. I write about in my books, if you have a mess right now in your life or you feel stuck, wherever you are, you created it. So if you have the power to create that, you also have the power to create something amazing. It's just letting yourself see it, feel it, talk about it. Little codicil there. Talk about it only with people that will support you, and then picture it every day.
Well, that's an important piece, right? Because a lot of us, we're stuck in game mode, right? Like we go to work, we do the thing, we take the sales calls, we take the meetings, and then like we're done. We don't go into practice mode. We don't go into repetition. We don't make these things like permanent habits. We're just surviving the day, surviving the week. Talk to me a little bit about as you get this alignment. You nailed it a little bit. You're the one that has to actually go do the things, but it's a coach that really kind of pulls those things out of you, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I think of the idea first and foremost that life is a gift. That's something that people have to come to a view instead of a problem. Instead of you're not getting what you desire and feeling like a victim, the master of circumstance creates it and understands they create it all. There's no definition of good or bad. It's just what's happening currently. And often the delay, life is training us. Life is training us. So when we desire something, there's the goal that's established in our mind. And then there's what I call the mess in the middle. Are you ready for the mess in the middle from where you are to where you want to go? And to appreciate it and be grateful for it because that's life guiding you. Whatever you call that invisible field, Joe Dispenza calls it the quantum field. It can be God or whatever your idea is of God or faith. Those are all good things. And I'm always asking people, do you have a higher power? Do you have a belief in a higher power? Something larger than you, larger than the ego. And so what happens over time, they prove it to themselves as they learn not to judge things good and bad, to just be with what shows up. And then I remind them from time to time. I've heard baseball players and other athletes say this when they're being interviewed in the field after a successful game or a great season. And I've heard this many times. Well, the difference this year was I let the game come to me. And often as humans, we're fighting life. As Eckhart Tolle says, when you fight life, life fights you. And I can say up until the age of 50, I was the MMA fighter of life. I was going to do it my way and win. And it's better to surrender and be in the mode in their mind of I wonder what life will bring me today. I'm going to let life come to me and just embrace whatever shows up. And actually, the greatest gifts have come for all my clients and myself in what seemed to be the most challenging times.
Oh, you're spot on
It's
about that
easy to
too.
feel good when things are good.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think about, you mentioned about acorn brain. I think of just what an acorn goes through: falls from the tree, trampled, picked up by some animal, buried in the ground, and left for dead. And that's when it actually has a chance to grow into a tree, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I've used that analogy.
Mm-hmm.
They might be in sprout stage and they just have to be patient and avoid a deer nibbling on them.
That's an incredible spot there. Now, how does somebody work with you if their company's not engaged with you? Because I know you work with some companies and you're great to put in front of a sales team or in front of the leadership team. But how would you even work with an individual who wanted to get into your programs? Do you have places they can start?
I do. I have a couple of things. One is for free. I have the Acorn Brain Coach, which is actually a Chat GPT that they can use for free. And so I have the link to the Acorn Brain Coach. I don't ask for any registration. No one has to give a name, and they can ask it questions, the GPT, which is based on all my videos, all my writings, and blogs. It doesn't matter whether it was a book or a blog or interviews like this. AI is got an amazing ability to scrub everything that's posted anywhere. And fascinating, I've tested it. I've had my clients test it and say, does this sound like me? And they've all said, yeah, it is. It's your work.
It's incredible. So if you're watching this now, somewhere in the comments, maybe in the description, even on the screen here, you'll find a link to go test that out. I mean, that's something that you just play with that for a few minutes. I mean, you might find a whole new reason to get up and make those changes that you know you need to make.
Yeah.
What about books? Yeah, places they can go to pick up a book or something like that?
Yes, SteveLentiniAuthor.com shows all the current books and goes back to a few of the original ones. Wake Up, Jump Into Your Life was the first book after my challenge. A wonderful experience on November 18th, 2002. And we'll talk more about that. And then I'm currently working on Your Brain is Brilliant, but It's Not Always Your Friend. And the subtitle is Why Your Brain is Not Always a Friend and Simple Strategies to Change That. And it's been hardwired into us because negative thinking was how we survived. Can you imagine being in a cave and someone in the family says, "Well, I'm going to go out for food And the family says, well, watch out for the saber-toothed tiger. And, they had to fear whether their loved ones would come back. And we go to the supermarket today, there's challenges in traffic, but certainly I don't have to worry about a saber-toothed tiger attacking me. And so the negative thinking actually served them as well, because at some point in time, humanity said, living in a cage is not for us. And they went out and tested new concepts for shelter. And you can see that progress all the way through modern times. I mean, when you can think about people faxing us, or while you were out slips on your desk, you'd work all day and come back and have 15 messages from people that you'd have to return. Today, that led to the fax, led to email and attaching things and scanners, and now texting, because we didn't want to wait to hear from people, and we wanted to be able to answer them as our day went along, or even schedule it. Now I can answer emails at 11, between 11 and 12, and 4 and 5. I don't have to wait for the while you were out messages. It's how we advance. So again, negative thinking is something to be grateful for, and no, there's no program around that eliminates it entirely. Like, I'm not going to tell you I found the way. And I tell my clients, if I ever tell you I found the way to live a life or your life, run away. Run away. And there's
Yeah.
people that promise all kinds of things about changing their people's lives. We guarantee this is going to change your life. There is no guarantee, Don, at least as far as I know, because they have to do the work, and it's uncomfortable. George Ivanovich Gurdjieff in the early 1900s prompted people to live a life of friction and chaos and conflict, because he said that's where the greatest gifts are. Joseph Campbell said that the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. There are so many, uh, I would say, sages over the years. In fact, I wrote the book Sage Advice: Wisdom for Living, from throughout the ages. And there's some people living that are in the book, but mostly it's people from the BC times all the way up to modern times, giving people advice. And it's fascinating, the advice that we haven't paid any attention to, because humans, we have, in order to own it, we have to go through it.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Now,
And the device is still relevant, right? I mean, advice from BC times, you read it, you're like, oh, well, I can apply that.
yeah, it could be like tweaking or tacking or adjusting. The airplane pilot doesn't get in the airplane and say, all right, we're going to Chicago from Florida, and they never make any adjustments. They're tweaking that route all the way through the flight.
100%.
It's the same thing in life.
Now, you mentioned the challenge, and I want to get into that because this is something within just a couple minutes of when I first met you and we talked. I had chills, goosebumps, whatever you want to call it. I want to get into that. Tell me about that challenge.
Well, on November 13th, 2002, and prior to that, I was the licensee for a national sales training program. And so I had my own clients. It was like a franchise. And I had another office in traffic about 2 hours away on a bad day from where I lived, from the town I lived, and where I had my main office. I was in that second office conducting a group meeting. 1 second I was fine, the next second I needed an ambulance. It felt like I had been knifed or shot in the abdomen. And I left the office to go to my partner's office and lay down. And the students also said, do you know, Steve, when they came to see me in the hospital, he said, do you know, you said I need an ambulance and I'm not sure I'll ever be back. I don't remember saying that. While waiting for the ambulance, people were asking me, are you okay, Steve? How you doing? And I said, I don't know how my body's doing. And I'm grateful. I had this overwhelming sense of gratitude just overwhelm me. I was fine. It didn't matter what happened to my body. In fact, when the EMTs came, I think they were expecting me to shout, "Don't let me die! Don't let me die! What's happening? What's happening?" Instead, when they asked me that same question, I gave them the same answer. I don't know how my body's doing, and I'm grateful. And you could see by the look on their face, like, man, this guy needs a an ER doctor, and a shrink. And then 5 days later in intensive care, I flatlined. 1 second with two friends at the end of my bed, the next second, one with everything and nothing, one with the infinite, one with God, if that's how you perceive it. It was amazing. Immense light, immense mercy, immense grace. And these words, Don, don't do it justice. They don't do it. They cannot describe it. To this day, I walk around with that thought in my mind as to why me, number one, and two, wow, it's way beyond human comprehension and my own comprehension. And it was like a scene and a scene and a scene. It was like I was in a play. There was no past and no future. So fast forward, the next scene was my life review and only the good I had done. I was surrounded by family as and friends as a knowing. There was a sense. And then even people I bought sandwiches for, total strangers, or helped them in any way, or gave them money. The good I had done was all that was mentioned, and the lives I had touched. And I was 50. I had no idea how many lives I had touched. And then I was asked a question. The third scene was stay or go, just like that. I don't do the voice justice, but it's the best I can do. Stay or go. And my consciousness surrendered with thy will be done. And I had not surrendered like that 100%. Again, I was 50. I'm embarrassed to say that. There were surrender moments and present moments, but often I was distracted by the past where maybe I fell down, there was an error in judgment or a mistake or a failure, or I was in the future wanting something different. And the gift really is that's where I learned that life is a gift. It's in the now. It's being fully present, not worrying about tomorrow. Forget about yesterday. It's gone. And plus, there was no mention of what my mistakes were or what many religions call sins. And it made sense to me back in my body. In fact, back in my body in intensive care, the same two friends that were at the end of my bed. And at some point, I was able to speak about what happened. And all I could say was something happened. And they both said, oh, yeah, you flatlined. The nurses and doctors came running in. Your alarms were going off. And they said, out, out, this is it. Go call his family. And they were out in the waiting room calling people saying, I don't know. I guess this is it for Steve. Again, it didn't matter. I was grateful and grateful for the whole experience, which little did I know would turn into 100 days in the hospital and 6 months out of work. And when you're doing sales training, if you're not working, the revenue was zero. However, it was zero from the training, but $24,000 came in the mail and 5 job offers while I was in a hospital bed. I didn't fill out one resume or even think about it. And 3 of them came from my clients. 2 came from outside people that had heard and knew either me or my brother or family. And again, offering me to work. And 6 months later, when I was cleared to go to work, I was returning from my own doctor's office. And I hadn't seen him because I was in a hospital outside of his practice area. I'm returning from his office, cleared to go to work, and the guy that called me on January 2nd asking me how was I doing, what was I doing, he had a job to offer me. And when I told him I was in the hospital and I don't know when I'll get out, he said, I don't care, I'm going to wait for you. And his name was Mike. I said, Mike, but I don't know what decision I'm going to make. Am I going to keep this license, start my own work, go to work for someone? And he said, I don't care, I'm going to wait. And it was uncanny that he called when I was returning home. I wasn't home yet from the doctor's office. And that's when I decided I was going to do both. Work for a client, and I negotiated time open in my calendar every week so that I could conduct and begin to develop my own work. And that's what I did.
Wow. What a What a gift. Now, I'm here the second time, and I think I still got the same chills when you, when you told me the first time of it. But I also, what was striking me now is everything we talked about leading up, and we've been doing this, we're on like our 25 minutes here. In the back of my head, I was hearing you say grateful, and I think you said grateful 5 or 6 times. I don't have to go back and count. You perceive this as a gift, don't you?
It was fascinating. It was a gift that overwhelmed me even while waiting for the ambulance. And it was like I had a sense either of the divine presence, the infinite presence, or it's just that somewhere in my training, I had been studying the power of gratitude. Finally, it was like life said, okay, you're practicing gratitude, you're writing about gratitudes. We're going to find out if you really are grateful. And somehow I just surrendered to the idea of this was going to be the biggest gift of my life, like a forest fire clearing the forest for new growth, or a flood which clears the fields and leaves behind rich soil. It was just uncanny. I still can't explain it all, except that gratitude, I carry that with me every day. I take gratitude breaks. I recommend it to my clients. Stop during the day, especially when this brain, this acorn brain, is racing, and just count your blessings. Be grateful. We've all got things we can be grateful for. I'm grateful when someone goes by in a wheelchair that I don't have any of those challenges. I did have a severe health challenge, not like people in many places all over the world are facing every day. And so I'm grateful, certainly, for my health.
And we talked about maybe an individual working with you, but are you available for corporate talks, for meetings? I mean, this story's got to relate to an audience and put things in perspective for them and determine what's important, even if it's a couple hundred people. Is that something you'll travel and do?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I've spoken for large groups, have spoken to conference rooms to give people some ideas about how to train their mind and how to overcome what I call the energy of complaints and grievances. When we get stuck with a story about someone else, or a boss, or a company, or our own a situation in our own life, it's a complaint or grievance energy that actually withholds our good. It delays our good. And R.J. Spina has written about it in the book Superconsciousness. He calls it electromagnetic interference. I just tell people it's delaying your good. But and other people have studied it. Neuroscientists are studying it now, and that we can, when we catch it, when we catch ourselves stuck in a complaint about someone or something, we're in victim mode. We're not appreciating the gift that life is. And that what is this teaching us? This person that bothers us, this event that disappointed us or shattered our image. Uh, it's called living life from the outside in. Nothing from the outside will validate our existence. And I can tell you on the other side, in what I now call what's next, there was no mention of houses I owned, books I had written, or books I had thought of, or articles I had written, the teams I had coached, the businesses I had developed. Everything that I thought was giving me value wasn't there. And that's where I came up with living from the inside out is so valuable. And many people teach it. It's that we decide to be satisfied, decide to be happy, decide to be grateful no matter what. And then life changes on the outside. It's fascinating how that works. We discover our power when we can retrain our mind, whether it's sales or leadership. Our brain often jumps to a conclusion about someone. And Dr. James Doty said, think of the mind this way: a file cabinet and a bloodhound. Whatever we put into the file cabinet, the bloodhound goes searching for evidence to prove we're right, that it's true, despite any evidence to the contrary. It's called confirmation bias. And we all do it. I still do it. I have to catch it. I have to catch it and then consider other possibilities. And for me, what's the gift in this? How can I grow? What am I supposed to learn? Maybe change, redirect. It becomes an inquiry instead of a complaint, and a gift.
Yeah, Steve, I'm just talking to the people watching this here. If you haven't been moved by the last 30 minutes here, then there's something that you need to go work on really, really urgently. Because I'll tell you, it's that alignment. It's the frustration that you may be feeling, letting all of that go, actually having somebody pull out of you your passion and then showing you that, or clearing the way for you to chase that passion. That's what a good coach can do. So reach out to Steve, whether you own a company and you want to get him in front of your team, whether you're running a division, or you have something you want to achieve either on the personal side, the career side, or right now if you just feel out of alignment and you know you could be performing at a better, higher, more effective level. You need someone to unpack this for you, help you see the perspective. And I can't think of anyone better that if you're watching this and relate to the story and you get the same goosebumps I have, reach out to Steve. Steve, do you take like a discovery call? Do they make sure it's a good fit first? I mean, how does that process work?
Either discovery call or in all my books, I offer a free coaching. And so people watching this can certainly call me, reach out to me, contact me for a free coaching.
Those links are on the screen. They're also in the description.
We want to be a fit. I wrote the book, Helping People Buy. I want everyone to feel comfortable, including me. Not everyone's a fit for me.
And then you get to the point of your life, and they will too, where you can work on what you want to work on. There'll still be things you may have to do or things that you don't want to have to address that need to get addressed. But when you can actually work with the people you want to work with, you'll have the most impact, the most effect, and in alignment. I heard it said that, I got a really good friend that says, I don't want to work with jerks anymore. My process work with jerks, but it's just no fun.
Yeah, and I have a quote that if you don't like your experience of the world, change how the world is experiencing you. And it's fascinating how lives change when people get that that's life knocking on their door. They're frustrated and angry because life continues to knock on their door and say, when are you going to wake up? When are you going to change? There is a gift in everything.
And it's your turn now to receive that gift. The links are on the video. The links are in the description. If you're watching this, get that book, get that coaching, get this process started, get into Steve's world and see if this is a match. Steve, I appreciate you being here today. I wanted to leave with the last word.
Well, it's to reflect on the idea that life is for you. And finding the gift sometimes takes me a long time, takes me a few weeks, because we are going to be upset. We're going to have people upset us and disappoint us and events disappoint us. The key is to not let it become the loop in your mind and find the gift. Ask the question, what's the gift in this? What am I to learn? What am I supposed to change? What's my new direction? What's my new course? Life, whatever you call that guide, will show up. You'll be amazed.
Awesome, Steve. Appreciate you being here, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. I'm grateful.